Thank you everyone for being here for our weekly Soul Changes Lives webinar. I'm Debbie Perez Cockburn. I welcome you all. I want to say straight off that I am grateful for all of your participation. I know it's hot, it's summertime. Many of you have plans, and I know we're coming to you smack in the middle of the day. So I appreciate your support every week for getting on. Also, I'd like to remind those who may view this later on, no one on the panel is a doctor. We don't profess to be doctors. We try not to prescribe or diagnose. That's not our job. What we do and what we like to do is share some good, practical, sound health opportunities by using our favorite products, which is Soul Naturals. And so we welcome all of you to our webinar this week. I have asked the participation of our good friend Gwen Jenkins, who is going to share a testimonial with us today. And then I have also asked the president and one of the founders, he is the CEO of Soul Naturals, who joins us every week, Mr. Greg Halliday, if he wouldn't mind giving us the secret sauce behind Vertizymes and why enzymes are so important, especially proteolytic enzymes, why they're so important to our bodies in maintaining a good, healthy, balanced body system. Our Vertizymes product is also part of our 4-month to health program. And so we'll be talking about that during this discussion today. So I'd like to turn the time over to my good friend Gwen, and I will ask Gwen to turn on her microphone. Gwen is going to share a testimonial that I absolutely love. So Gwen, go right ahead. And
okay, thank you. Thank you for inviting me to share my testimonial on the Improve Your Health in 4 Months plan. Now, I started with Soul like some years ago, and then I kind of dropped off, and I came back at the end of last year because I was experiencing some challenges with digestion and also with emotion, some emotional challenges. I was a high school family and consumer sciences teacher. I taught intro to culinary arts and sometimes fashion design, sometimes interior design, just really whatever the school, whichever class had the most students signed up for it. So then they would pick that class. But with the onset of COVID, it's like everything just kind of started crowding in on me. I mean, I had, when I look back, I think that it wasn't just that, but it had been adding up and compounding over time. I mean, I was born in a really rural town in Texas, a little bitty town, population 200 and something people in East Texas. And like all my life, it's like I had things that I wanted to do and people telling me that I couldn't do them because I was Black or that I was not from the right this place or that place. So I would just go along and then I would just settle for things. Like I would do things because I thought, well, maybe I could do this because somebody like me could do this. So I would do it. And then, but I wasn't happy because I wasn't doing what I really wanted to do because I had bought into this, you need to settle for this attitude. So anyway, COVID came along, and then last year after we started back to school, I mean, when we were off and we could work from home, like for me, that was ideal because I liked being able to step away and not have so many people pulling on you all the time. So so school started, and then they gave us all these extra classes. Like not only did we have our in-person classes, but now we had the same amount of classes with students doing Zoom. And then they wanted us to do also, they were telling us we might have to do some classes with students in the classroom and also Zoom. And I thought, that's crazy. And the classes that I teach, the Intro to Culinary Arts, they have duties tied into them. Like I had to go shopping. we had to shop at a particular store. So you had to go to the store, you had to do all the shopping. And then if I had the kids shopping, cooking every week, and I have 3 or 4 classes of students, that's a lot of shopping. So I had to do that. And then they added these duties where we had to sit and monitor the kids going to the bathroom. And I'm like, oh, this is a lot. I'm not going to be able to do this. And when I talked to the administrators about it, they were like, well, you're going to have to do it because everybody has to do it. And I'm like, but I already have duties built into the work that I do. Why do I have to have these extra duties? And it just got to be overwhelming. So I just took some time off. I had to take some time off from school, and I started to see a counselor who helped me work through it. And at that time, then I was talking to Debbie, and she was telling me about the Improve Your Health in 4 Months program. I looked at it, and I do what everybody does initially when they see it is, that's a lot of money. I thought about it like that. Man, that's a lot of money. So I said, but anyway, I'm going to do it because I've got to get my health back, where I know it should be. I've got to get control of my emotions, because the kids would talk to me about things and I would just start crying. And I'm like, why did I cry about that? That's nothing. I would watch a commercial on television and just start crying. I mean, really boo-hooing. And I'm like, there's something wrong. This is not right. So I started the program, and the first month was really good because I'd started having problems with digestion. And so I did the first month, and I noticed that I'd started burping a lot, that the burping, had almost stopped. I didn't burp like I would burp just all through the day. I never understood why I was doing that, but I was really glad that that cleared up because I started doing the program. And then the next month was a detox. And I felt that I really needed that detox. It helped me to be able to settle down more. Like before I started the program and before I took the time off, I was on Sundays at 6 o'clock, you could almost set a clock by it. I would just start feeling so uptight and I would just feel nervous. And my husband would say, you know what, you need to just calm down. Why are you getting so worked up about that? You don't even have to be at school until tomorrow, but I would just be on edge. It was just, I would feel so nervous. When I got to school and got into the rhythm of the day, it would be okay. This started like after the 3rd year, but last year, it was like every day I was experiencing that. I experienced that every day, and it would just, I would be nervous the whole time that I was at school. So I did the program, and I was thinking about quitting my job like in February, but I decided that I was old enough to retire, that I was just going to go ahead and retire, and I wanted to quit on my own terms. I wanted to end the relationship on my own terms, not to feel that I was being driven out because of all of the changes. So I went back, and I'm glad that I did, because I wanted to say goodbye to some of the students that I had developed relationships with. And I noticed when I went back, and I cry about stuff still, but this is a good cry. I noticed when I went back that I wasn't feeling that anxiety anymore. I mean, I didn't come on Sunday evenings. I didn't feel any anxiety about going into the classroom anymore. And I wasn't crying so much anymore. I mean, I've always been a very sensitive person, and I cry about certain things like weddings and those kinds of things. But I wasn't just crying because somebody said some stupid thing on a commercial. It was just, I felt that the Soul products helped me to get control of myself, of my emotions. And now I was on a program where I was taking supplements regularly, and I could see the difference that it was making in my life. So that's my story.
That's awesome, Gwen. That is awesome. A lot of people don't make that connection between the emotional and the physical body response like you did. A lot of people would have just said, okay, well, I'm over COVID and I'm doing better now, would not have made the connection, right, between the program and, Gwen,
No.
it's package number 3 and then just moved on. And you all have seen this brochure, and it's what we use in our group. But when I think of Gwen's story, and that's why I asked her to share it, and she gave us a lot of details, most people don't ever associate how the emotional affects the body. And she noticed the burping immediately, and then how the burping went away. When the body is out of balance, many things can happen, as Greg will let you know in a little bit, especially why using a product like Soul Naturals Vertizymes, which are proteolytic enzymes, and how enzymes are not just for digestion, you guys. Enzymes play an important part in our bodies. As a matter of fact, if you didn't have enzymes in your body, which I compare to, and I'm not a mechanic, I do understand how things work, but in your body, you have a catalytic converter, something that is a catalyst, something that starts that spark and gets the engine to turn, right? If you didn't have enzymes or produce the right amount of enzymes or the correct enzymes in your body would not even be able to maintain enough heat to maintain life. That's how important enzymes are. That's why when people ask me, Debbie, why is it that your answer is always the same? Why is it that the 4 months to health is always your reply? It's always your answer to everything. It is because the body is always looking to maintain homeostasis. Homeostasis is a fancy word for saying balance. When things are out of balance or out of whack, either in our hearts and minds, it affects the body, and it goes the other way too. If things are out of balance in our body, our hearts and minds don't function properly. And so today we're going to learn about an important member of package number 3 of the 4 month to health package, which is our Vertizymes product. I've already told you it's a proteolytic combination with adaptogenic herbs, and you're going to see why this product is so essential to maintaining balance in the body. Greg, thank you for joining us as you do every week. I'm so grateful to have you review this product. I know we've talked about it before, but we've never really talked about it in reference to how it helps the body regain balance and maintain balance by daily use. And we haven't really talked about how using a proteolytic enzyme at bedtime versus during the day for digestion, how that can also affect your body's equilibrium.
Thanks, Debbie, and hello, everyone. Thanks, Gwen, for sharing your awesome story. I was listening carefully. I know there are lots of other people who can use that information and change their life, and that's why we do this. Excuse me. So we're always learning something, aren't we, about enzymes as we continue to study? And Dr. Allison, a little while ago, she taught me something that I didn't know that had to do with the enzymes. And oh, hang on a second. I'm trying to pull up the slide and I am not seeing it. Let's see. Sorry for the, the delay here. Okay, hang on just a quick sec. I had that Vertizymes open. Let me open them one more time here because they closed on me.
In the meantime, I just wanted to say that, you know, another thing about enzymes that's important is when the body is looking for balance, it needs a good source of energy. Just like you change out your battery in your car or add additives to gasoline to make things work better, that's exactly what enzymes do in the body for us. They're that extra little charge that the body needs to do things.
Yes, thanks, Deb. And I've just found it again. It's weird. My computer closed it last night somehow. So now I've got it open again and I'll share my screen with you. What I was going to say though is in learning about enzymes, Debbie might remember this presentation. We were talking about inflammation and pain, and we were talking about other Soul products, but Dr. Allison mentioned to us that in the mid 20th century, so now we're talking, I don't know, 70 years ago, medical science was quite comfortable with and very well knew this point that Debbie just brought up, that proteolytic enzymes, or protein digestive enzymes, another name for them is protease. Protease enzymes are several types, that they actually play a key role in lowering inflammation, and they actually address pain. And before you saw, commonly now we all began looking for Advil or ibuprofen or some of these synthetic pain relievers, that it was not uncommon 3 or 4 times a day in cases of sort of severe pain and inflammation, proteolytic enzymes would be given. And there were a lot of great results. It's just not the same as, of course, the magic pill that we kind of want. But it is a very different process, and one that is over time building when we use proteases in our life. And they do much more than just one thing or 2 things. They're involved in so much. So when we formulated Verdezymes, first of all, the name, enzymes from plants. That's why the Verde, the green enzymes, Verdezymes, they're all plant sourced. We do need them more and more as we age. That's a fact. And unfortunately, we're seeing in younger aged people that there's a lack. Part of it is, a big chunk of it is processed foods that don't have them, and diet, right? Another chunk of it is stress, a lot more stress. And there are several factors there where they're very much in need of enzymes as part of their diet as well. So not just as we age. So when we designed it, we were always looking at 2 broad areas. One was this whole role of various enzymes, including these protein enzymes that Debbie referenced. And the other was the very, very important management of stressors on the body. And I'll just give you a story that illustrates it, and how a lot of the work of digestion of enzymes can just be shut down with stress, even if we've got enzymes and things. An example, I knew a young man who had been living overseas. He was doing a voluntary service. He came back. He was a friend of our daughter's, and that's why we knew him. And he came back before his plan, the time that he was planning on coming back. And it was because he was so stressed, he wasn't sleeping. It was very new, he was living in a different country. And it was quite overwhelming. And our daughter confided when he came over one night, hey, he hasn't gone to the bathroom in 2 weeks. We're talking the trains had not been leaving the station, if you know what I mean. And he was aware of natural things and had tried several things. Had tried natural and quite strong natural bowel movers like Senna and Cascara Sagrada and other things, and had tried, she named off 3 or 4 things because this daughter of ours, she's quite familiar with natural nutrition. Nothing was working. And here we were, and then she knew about Verdezymes, and she wanted to give him some, and that's what she wanted to talk to me about. So here's the thing, the reason I bring up his story is because sometimes the stress is so overwhelming, right? It shuts the whole process down. And if we don't address it, I'm thinking of what Gwen shared with us, if we don't address that part, it can seem to override everything. And that was one of our thoughts with Verdezymes, providing these tools that are absolutely essential, a broad spectrum of enzymes, and then in particular, another second group that are focused on the proteases. And I'll tell you just a minute about the secret of those. And then adding herbs that deal with directly calming the mind, but also the second, the brain and the second brain, right? And also calming those connective nerves through digestion. So that's why it's a little bit unique, because it has all these enzymes, plus it's got 4 different really wonderful herbs that are calmers soothers, and in a sense, one of them in particular actually activates, by calming things, it activates those digestive processes that are so essential for us to work through any kind of a situation like that. So it's a little bit unique. Lastly, it has a little fiber blend that's very small. It's a combination that we call fiber tract that actually will encase all of these and take them further in, not just digesting in the stomach, that will actually kind of encase them like you see with the time release, and then move them into the small intestine. So these are sort of those three unique properties. If you're wondering how Vertizyme is a little different, the calming herbs, the particular blend of enzymes is unique, and then this time release formulation that we did. So what is it? Okay, well, the first group of enzymes, as this slide shows, they're all plant sourced, and you've heard of all of them: glucoamylase and invertase, cellulase, lipase, amylase, a really good blend that will handle all these very important digestive needs. Then the second group are 4 different proteases. So that's what's kind of unique. Now, I've seen products in the past. I was familiar with a really good enzyme, plant enzyme formula before we founded Soll, and there were 3 different proteases listed on it. However, those were just names from different suppliers of the same protease. So each of the suppliers will kind of have the way that they brand it. You have to find out where the protease comes from. Some of them come from papaya, right? Some can come from pineapple, and they're a variety of really good natural sources. And they get these market names, so it makes it a little bit difficult to look at on the label and make sure you're getting a variety. Well, why do I even bring that up? Well, because one of the very important factors about proteases is they function in certain pH ranges, and those pH ranges differ. And this is the reason we included 4 that all had overlapping but distinct pH ranges, to try to get as broad a pH condition covered. That really is the simple answer on why we did it. And it's one of the secrets of the proteases. So, if someone tries Vertizyme and they're like, wow, I love this product, it really is changing this and this and this, what makes that so unique? Well, one thing you can tell them is its particular variety is pH balanced so that it covers a wider range of conditions of the body. In fact, on the label, that's why if you look at the top of the label, it says multi-pH protease, and that's one of that little tag collar on the label. Multi-pH protease simply refers to pH from protease from 4 different sources, all in a little different pH range. And things are different for all of us. The way we receive stresses, and that can lead to slightly different terrain, right? Slightly different acidity in the body. We don't presume to know all of this, but we've learned enough to know that if we can give that variety, we have a much better chance of helping everyone with the one product. So that's a very key thing. Now, sorry, I'm jumping to the herbs, but there's one final little secret that I want to tell you about the proteases, and that is, once we were able to combine these 4 in particular, once our scientist, our chemist had told us, this is a good amount, this would be a typical amount of each one of those that would be not just useful for digestion, like, with your food, but also for what Debbie was alluding to. When you take it on an empty stomach, think of the research I was telling you from the mid-20th century. What amount of protease makes a difference in pulling inflammation down in the body, including blood purifying type of properties, like going in and dealing with fats in the blood that become hard. And proteolytic enzymes deal with so many things, don't they? But that happens when we take them on an empty stomach, and if there's enough, if it's a therapeutic amount, and it can't just be, kind of what's going to get used up in our digestion. So once we got to that point, we came back to our chemist, and we actually told him, now double it. That's what we did. And he looked at us like, what? Why? I just told you this is because this product, we wanted this to be something that is not only really good for your meals, where you could take 1 or 2 with a meal, capsules, but also at night, it would be enough to give the body what it's lacking to do what it wants to do and repair things, imbalances, things that need these all important, the spark, these enzymes to complete that process or to even begin it. So that was kind of circling back to what Debbie said. That is why Vertizymes is really particularly good there, because it has 4 different proteases, and then we've doubled the amount that you might typically see, which is absolutely safe and wonderful to do. As I say, years ago, that was fairly common. Multiple times a day, they understood how these enzymes would work with the body and could really make a difference in imbalances like inflammation that would lead to pain. And we just know now that they'll now address, there have been studies on fats in the blood, improving that, on abnormal cell, on any other number of issues that involve the need for protein to be digested and broken down for the body. So that's like half the formula. All this explanation with the enzymes is really like half the formula. It's a very important half. The other half is the herbs that go with it. And honestly, I will tell you the way we started, because having listened to wonderful people like Sherry and Gwen and Joanne, I'm looking at a few who are on here that I've known over the years. We have a very balanced approach when it comes to these wonderful array of herbs and how they can help. And so we looked at, okay, herbs that help calm the mind, that the body can use in the way it approaches stress to improve that. And so 2 of those, one being an adaptogen, which is wood betony, and the other one being passion flower, 2 of the very best that deal with those processes of the body that give us a more, I like how Gwen said, how you said it, Gwen, but it's just a more centered, calm feeling, when we're even in a situation that's not so calming to us, but that we can have that outlook. These 2 herbs are 2 of the best for that, betony and passion flower. And then the other 2 are directly, though they all work in all parts of the body, were directly targeted for digestive imbalance, where there's too much acidity, too much gas, bloating, too much permeability in the gut. And what helps soothe that and repair that mucus lining and help feed the probiotics and just restore things to their natural condition? Well, marshmallow and peppermint are 2 of the very best, because peppermint also stimulates the good processes, the powerful processes of digestion that are necessary for that to happen too. So that's the other half of the formula, is those herbs, right in the same formula. And that's always our hope, right, to address the physical needs and also those emotional and cognitive corollaries. And that's why it's a blue label. Vertizymes isn't calming. Calming to me is always 2 things. It is a relaxed state or a manageable stress, but stimulating repair and restoration and rejuvenation, which the body wants to do every day anyway. If it has the right raw materials, it'll use what it has, right? And we'll either get a good repair or we'll get one that's the best it can be with what we're offering it. But none of that happens to me without the body getting a chance, with it feeling calm, and in a position to rebuild and repair itself. Vertizymes is right smack in the center of that. That's why I think it's such a great one in the first package, because it is something that everyone can start to involve in these levels, much more therapeutic levels, something that, again, to summarize all that I've said about the enzymes, something that's enough for what we're intaking right now in terms of food, but that has an overage not taken up in that, so that the body has something to utilize to do more now than just digest the food that's coming in right now. That really has always been the goal of Vertizymes. Here's just a couple of neat things. These are kind of reviews for all of us, but I love this slide because it shows you how much the millennia, I can't even say centuries, because you have to do a couple of millennia to go back to where these statements originated. I think the first one was really Rome, Italy, not just Italians, but Romans. Sell your coat and buy wood betony. That's how much it was valued. And the Spanish, talking about a woman, that they admired. She has more virtues than wood betony. Okay, why? Well, it's a member of the mint family, that powerful family of herbs that does so much balancing for us, and might be, in my view anyway, hands down number one for all things to do with the head. Now, since then, science has studied its antimicrobial properties. Since then, it's studied the way it calms central nervous system. I mean, the list goes on and on. So when you go back and look at sort of reported history, sort of folkloric, which is just records of people, one by one, you can just tick off the list that science is able to show, oh, this is why they were saying that. Oh, it has this component. Very balanced and very much, we believe, adaptogenic. So that's a key part of Vertizymes, because back to my story of my daughter's friend, stressors and stress can often overpower everything else, even with good raw materials in there in the body and good nutrition. It needs particular help too. And so wood betony is there for that. Here's one from 2011 about heart palpitations. So this author claims about 1 in 7 people, not non-diagnosed for most people. And you have a lot of history, more and more studies showing that. I know you're familiar with Phyllis Bulk, Prescription for Nutrition Healing. Wood betony stimulates proper functioning of heart and historically has been used for treating cardiovascular, we'll call them imbalances, because that's what they are. So here's another one, infection and bacterial infection in particular. So no wonder wood betony was popular with earaches and other, there are lots of uses that we read about from past millennia that are getting validated by the science. And here's another study in the Flavor and Fragrance Journal about really strong antibacterial properties in wood betony. And how about the ringing in the ears? That's another one. And even this report went so far as to describe some of the reasons why you have very positive activity of wood betony for just a number of kind of ear, nose, throat conditions, and I would say other cerebral conditions. Gillian Painter, or is it Jillian? I can't remember how you pronounce that name. Materia Medica for the Southern Hemisphere. Wood betony is one of the few plants with a restorative effect on the nerves and nervous system. It is used for all matters of the nervous system and brain. Those are pretty broad statements. And one of the things that caught our eye early on, because we want the Soul products to give help now, but not at the sacrifice of future well-being. So they have to be ingredients and have to be builders, so that like in 1 year, 2 years, and 3 years, Gwen's going, this is where I kind of got serious about my program. Here's what I saw. And then a year down, boy, since then, I am a year later, and now I'm actually seeing this as well. A lot of us can say that over time because things like wood betony I call them builders, because they do have a restorative effect, which takes time. And, in our circumstances, we got to be able to, sometimes we get an unforeseen challenge in health, which happens no matter how great we're trying to be. And we got to get past that, get our body back in a good place, and we can continue that restorative process. And that's my feeling and my belief about it. Here's a couple other statements about wood betony. It's a nervine remedy for all maladies of the head. It's a tonic. And in 1666, the Medicina Britannica, I don't know who the author is of this, but it's quoted from that. I've known the most obstinate headaches cured by daily breakfasting for 4 to 6 weeks on a decoction of wood betony with new milk and strain. This person, very interesting to me. Lots and lots. You can read tons of these about, and this is why the sayings, right? Here was a study comparing it to Voltaren. Wood betony exhibited similar or greater potency in its anti-inflammatory effects. So that was back, all these studies. So there are plenty since then, and we probably ought to update some of these because this is right when we introduced wood betony. That's why they're all 2012. So then we combine that with peppermint, and I'm going to go a little faster on the others. I spent more time on wood betony because it's kind of the star, like the proteases are kind of the star of this formula, the stars of this formula. But peppermint, we can't say too much about, right? Because it stimulates liver. And so many things that fix toxic conditions, the liver needs to do it, and we need bile to do it. And I love all the trainings Dr. Allison's given us about how bile combines with fiber to get rid of all sorts of bad things that come through diet and et cetera, that just don't get eliminated any other way as long as we're drinking enough water. But I would add to it, as long as we're calm enough too, meaning we can find that time to center ourselves and let the body eliminate and clean itself out. So Vertizymes is both a calmer and a stimulant, and that's why it's in here. Gastric spasms, there's a study in 2012. And then we come down to the other one that I talked about, principally for the gut, but it's wonderful for our lungs too. You know, I think of it right now with what people are nervous about. It's a great soothing mucilage. And I just look at all those internal cell wall, any part of, breathing or digestion. And really you could add circulation because it's soluble. It's a soluble fiber. It just has innumerable benefits. Here's one that talks about gastric ulcers, improving that. Here's one about platelet aggregation. And then we jump to the final one, passion flower. I always love that favorite story that Verlin Richardson told me when I first came to the company where we were before, and she had just kind of built her store up and had hired a new employee, and she stepped out for a minute, and this employee was kind of there, left her hanging, and this couple came in who was just getting married, or it was their honeymoon, or I think it was their honeymoon. They just got married, and they wanted something to help that honeymoon night be wonderful and fantastic. And this employee, this good-hearted employee, saw passion flower sitting on the shelf. Thought, hey, this is probably perfect for them. And I think they bought 2 bottles of passion flower, and they were not very happy when they came back in a couple of weeks because apparently he kept falling asleep. And so, but anyway, I love that story because some people are much more sensitive to the sedative side of passion flower. For most of us, it's not that. It won't make you sleepy, but depends on what's, if your body's not getting any sleep, yeah, it might. But Vertizymes, it's in it for a different reason. I love this Sloan Kettering Cancer Center study. So these are the parts of passion flower that we use. Look at the list: insomnia, anxiety, epilepsy, neuralgia, withdrawal symptoms from opiates or benzodiazepine. I don't know if I know how to pronounce that last one. Debbie could probably help me with that.
You did a really good job. Benzodiazepine.
Oh, okay. I was close. Why else is it good in the whole sleep thing? It activates GABA receptors. And look at that last one. Anxiety scores were significantly reduced for a group compared to a placebo group. So this was a double-blind study. And there were no other differences. So what they noticed is it didn't compromise your psychomotor function. So it doesn't put you in a compromised situation like a drug would, or something. I'm trying to think of various categories, but it does take the anxiety away and calm, but leave you functional and alert. And that's one of the properties of passion flower. Here's another 2 evidences of how well it's esteemed in Europe, both in Great Britain and also in Germany. You can see it's listed there in their compendiums, anxiolytic or anti-anxiety and sedative and central nervous system soothing. And then in Germany, nervous restlessness is the Commission E statement in Germany. So here's another one, just shows better sleep. Just better sleep if I can do this. Now, I will tell you, my sister, she used to take this with every one of her meals. And this is old news. Debbie's heard this story. My sister, Darcy, Darcy and Lance. And she figured out that if she'd take them before bed without food, she just takes 3 every night. It has now been 9 years. Why am I thinking of her? Because last night I got a phone call late at night from my brother-in-law, Lance, and he said, we're heading to Cancun tomorrow for a family vacation, and there are only 3 capsules in our Vertizymes bottle. Is there any way I can get a bottle for you before we head down there, because he knows, Darcy has told me, if I take 3 at night, she goes, I don't even have to take them with my meals anymore. My digestion, because she takes them when her body can use them, like what Debbie, and that's a whole other conversation that Debbie could train on, is using them on an empty stomach. What are all the different things and powerful things these enzymes can do? And I just would add, because we also bring the appropriate herbs in a good amount in there. And I will add to you, this is the final pragmatic statement. A lot of enzyme products, you'll see fillers in them because you don't need very much space in a capsule for enzymes. So most of it will be a filler, and then you have the enzymes. So that is part of the reason you see ProBioIQ and Vertizymes with these wonderful herbs. We never wanted to use fillers. If we're going to have a capsule, we want it all to be things that body is typically lacking that have to do with this, that we can provide at the same time. So Vertizymes, it is so essential. And I will tell you, to this day, even today, here we are 9 years into Soul, right? It is the #1 bottle. You have Vertizymes, and then you have Adaptable. Just the quantity of bottles that Blake's got to make. That's how core Vertizymes is. It's right there, that Adaptable, and then PI. And that's why in about a month and a half, what are we at? July, yeah, a month and a half at convention, we'll be happy to announce this bigger size bottle. Like, here's the normal, where's my normal Vertizymes? It's that one right there, right? So this shows you how bigger. So that in addition, there'll be a 180 count size because it is something that the whole family's digging into them. 60 capsules when you got a few people using them doesn't last you very long. And so anyway, we'll have a bigger size, which will be actually a little better price per dose too, because we can do that with a bigger size. So anyway, Debbie, I've said enough and too much, probably. Back to you.
Thank you, Greg. You've said so much. There's so many things to wrap it up, but I think Gwen's story really is significant when we look at what the Vertizymes product actually did for her throughout that emotional time for her. It was a time of turmoil. It was a time where she really was having a lot of things, a lot of issues that she was struggling with, and how the Vertizymes really pulled it all together for her, in addition to the rest of the program, right? So when we look at month 1 or package number 3 or package number 2 even, where it's interesting because you mentioned the 3 products that I use the most of every month, which is Adaptable, the SolFlex, and the Vertizymes. And I will tell you this, what turned me on to enzymes 20 some odd years ago, when I was at that other company, was a mutual friend of yours and mine. This lady was doubled over on a long trip. It was a European trip. It was called the TAC trip. And she was doubled over in pain. She could not walk. Her husband was literally holding her by the waist behind her to help her walk. She was crying. And I remember I asked her what the problem was, and she said she had a bulging disc problem. And I immediately remembered how enzymes can help. And I remember I told her, I know you've just eaten. Can you just go back to your room and take 12 or 13 enzymes? That was a lot. It was a therapeutic dose, but it wasn't a Vertizyme formulation either. You wouldn't have to take that many if you were using Vertizymes to do the same thing. And I told her, I said, you will alleviate the pain, and I promise you, you'll be able to move in a few hours. And sure enough, worked like a charm. She took some more that evening. She slept through the night. The next day when I saw her on the bus, we were touring some other city, she was walking on her own. Her husband was there walking behind her in case she wobbled, but she just looked at me with tears in her eyes and she said, I never would have imagined that enzymes could do that for me, for my structural system. It relaxed her nerves, it was helpful for her to ease the pain. And to this day, I mean, I know that she still uses the other enzymes, but really there's so much good science behind Vertizymes.
The other formula, I know it's what you're talking about, and it's a good formula. I actually, that's what got me turned on to him as well, because it's a fantastic formula. You probably would just use 4 of this. Where you had to do 11, 12, you probably would do 4, and then repeat as needed, like you said, like that night again or whatever.
Right, which is what I do to combat when my arthritis pain really acts up at night. Like for right now, I apologize. You can see all my boxes behind me, but when I am packing and moving around, doing a lot of things, my knees get a little stiff at night. And I woke up the other night and I was in a lot of pain. In the dark, because I don't want to wake up my husband because he gets up really early. I remember I went and I found my Solflex AC cream, and I came back out to the kitchen and grabbed another handful, another 4 Vertizymes, because I had taken 4 before I went to bed, but it was an hour later and I was still in pain. I took 4 more and I went to bed and I slept the rest of the night. And I woke up less stiff in the morning. So I can tell you from personal experience, chronic pain or chronic stress plays the same amount of havoc in your body as any other chronic disease. So you can really help manage the effects of stress in your body with this program because of the Vertizymes and because of the probiotics, which we will talk about next week. And we'll talk about the science behind ProbioIQ and why it is also essential to managing balance in your body and managing everything that can cause your body or mind to go out of balance and how it affects you. So I appreciate that, Greg. Thank you so very much. I love listening to you every week. I'm looking forward to convention to hear Dr. Allison and to hear all of the new science that you've come up with. And I also understand that there may also be a new product in the works. I don't know if that's coming up.
Well, we are working on one
or later.
Probably because of the speed of getting raw materials, things are slower still with COVID.
Yeah.
It would be nice if we had something to taste, but it might just be in the leadership meeting we have something to taste. But yeah, we're shooting for September. I wish we could do
Perfect.
it faster, but we got to do what we can do. Yeah.
Perfect. Perfect. I always look forward to convention. For those of you who are not still sold on convention, convention is the place to be because that's where you get the secret sauce on everything that's going on at Soul. So I love it. And if you still have questions about that, I'd be happy to answer afterwards. Greg, thank you so much.
Yeah, good to see you.
So much for your participation this week. I think your story, a lot of people can identify with. Sybil is saying thank you, and it was wonderful, and she'll watch it again. So thanks again, everyone. And anyone who has questions can stay on, but I'm going to stop our recording here. I love you all. I thank you for sharing these. I thank you for joining every week. It's always a privilege and an honor to be with you. Thank you.